Hey gang, what's good? It's Wes. Welcome to another episode of Wes's Art Tips, or Wes's Art School, Wes's Art something. We're going to figure it out. One of these days, we will figure out an actual name for what this is going to be. So in this episode, we are going to be taking another look at my Discord channel and a really healthy debate that was happening based on a piece of marketing art from an old Superman movie in the movie poster. Now, this is a topic that comes up in art school, like formal art school, all the time. If you watch any tutorials either on YouTube or let's say you purchase some through like Gumroad and you're talking about shadows, this is a piece of advice that is usually parroted for good reason, and it's something that is true and also not true. We're going to talk about what can be deceptive about this practice, why you should kind of steer away from it primarily, but why it can also be a very powerful asset whenever you're working, especially on like marketing art. Okay, so the big overall topic is going to be, should you use black in your shadows? Well, only one way to find out. Let's get to it. So yes, we are here. We're gonna take a look at the Discord. We did this in the last episode about color variation and how to achieve that in your shadows. So now we're kind of on this other kick. Should you use black in your shadows? So we're going to take a look at the discussion. We're going to look at the healthy debate that's happening. But before we do this, I need to put a disclaimer. The disclaimer is also going to come up while we read the thread on the Discord. And by the way, if you want to join the Discord, absolutely free. We would love to have you. Link will be in the description below. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. But this is something that comes up a lot. We had the color variation in the shadows in the last video. This one is talking about using black in the shadows. And the disclaimer is, this is not poking fun or calling out or we'll touch on this whenever we do kind of the paint over of this. But this is not a call out on some artist did something wrong or this team, a marketing team for the Superman Returns movie way back in 6. I think it was 2006. What they did wrong. Like, that's not what this is. Trust me, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, as the old crazy saying goes. But we're going to take a look at this and use this as a healthy debate point and talk about the pros and the cons of using this. So this is not throwing shade. This is not saying, well, you know, the best way or the correct way to do this would have been. No. I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about why that kind of mindset is actually poisonous to any kind of fulfilling art career. Okay, because at the end of the day, a little spoiler alert, as an illustrator or as a marketing artist, you are making somebody else's art. And the decision isn't up to you. But we'll talk about this, okay? So let's kick on over to the deal right here. Let me go over to boom, not that one. That one, there it is. All right, here we are. My webcam's like giant on here. What in the world? That's fine though. We'll keep it right here. Cool. So I'm on this side apparently now. Normally I'm on the other side or this side, but okay, cool. So yeah, we're here on the Discord. Like I said, link in the description, but let's read through this. Okay. I'm going to read through this. Then we're going to kick over to Photoshop, do a little bit of a paint over, which I've already done, but I want to talk about some things. And you're going to kind of see where I'm coming from on this, at least on the whole verdict of should you use black in the shadows or not. All right. So Rick, our good friend Rick Burlow, great artist, does a lot of comic book stuff. Yeah, he published a lot of things, I think. So very accomplished, very skilled artist, been years in the making. He's an art teacher as well. He knows his stuff, right? So Rick says, so me and Ray just had a small talk and I wanted to have your guys' take on this. This looks odd, right? Or is it just the shadows and positioning of the legs making it look odd? For me, it looks like one boot is much longer up than it should be to be anatomically correct and aligned proper with the other leg. Note, asking to have a healthy debate and a study, not roasting the photo. So yes, we're going to get that out of the way again. This ain't a roast, okay? This is a thing that we're going to look at this with a critical eye, with a working eye, and see, can this be improved upon? Can this be tweaked? What should we do? What's actually happening? What are we looking at, okay? Yeah, the right boot seems a ton longer than the left to me, but that could just be the way the things are angled and shaded. The shadows really help with the confusion here. If there is light coming from the backside, shouldn't there be less shadow on the back of the boots as well? The hand also makes it seem like the left side of the boot should have some lighting. There definitely should some backlighting from the planet. Okay, you have a light source, you should probably use a light source. Okay. Look at the kneecap. That's not carried down into the boot. It also kind of feels like the boot's backside should be further left than it is. So we're agreeing. Sorry if it seems like it's in a roasting territory. No. We're simply studying a professional piece. That's very true. Looking at it with a critical eye does not mean you're throwing shade. It does not mean you could do better than, or this like, well, this is garbage, and if I were hired, I would solve all the world's problems. Like, get that crap out of here. We're looking at this stuff just to look to see how could it be impactful, how can it be effective. So here's a great little, on the Discord, they're going through it. So if you have the light source in the back, the lighting should be flipped on the inside. So the dark hand, the light fingertips, it feels like this should be angled a bit more. And then, of course, your light source in the back. Sure. Okay. Well, if I know how to use Discord now. So that's what I see. I love this, and I agree with you. One could argue that the inside of the arm should have light somewhere, but that it's hard to judge given the angles. The body could be easily blocking the light from hitting the inside of the forearm, so you're obscuring light from passing through, right? But I think the hands and fingers are definitely lit wrong. I think it feels like the light is too much on the left and not enough behind. To clarify further, I think the areas I drew here specifically feel like they should be reversed. So dark and the light fingertips and light sources and, just overall, only light the edge of the back of the hand and then light the inside of the fingers and the outside of the thumb. Since the primary source seems to be on the right side, that where majority of the light is being emitted from and being thrown, what's going to catch it? Stuff on that side, right? And the secondary source is in the back left. There is still light, but it's less light, so it won't be as intense. And then you do the inverse square law, which we'll talk about. It's a mind-blowing thing, but James Gurney really brought it to my attention. But the inverse square law usually works pretty well. So here's the full poster. However, I do not see it would help anything. This is how things currently look. It honestly makes me question things even more. And we're going to be looking at this full poster, but just as a reference right here. So you have this. That makes it worse. Why is there an unlit section on the hair? Why is the cape lit from above? Like the image looks badass. Spoiler alert. You're onto something. I feel like we need more opinions here. I agree it makes it worse. I still feel like healthy study and talk could be had. Like, do you think the artist is taking the moon's light into consideration with their decisions here? And if so, does it make sense? Tangentially, does this work as a cohesive package? Does the light make sense? Is it acting upon things within our piece? And these are questions that you're going to have during any kind of painting or illustration. Or what is your lighting? What's your light source? What is it doing? How intense is it? Do you have rim light? Do you have backlight? Do you have the Caravaggio, the Rembrandt triangle? Like, what do you got going on? How is this going to be in reference of everything else? Does the character or the main subject look grounded or present in the situation it's supposed to be in due to ambient lighting? Or, this is all stuff you tackle with every image. So looking at images like this and just being like, I wonder how this could work. It's a good exercise. It trains your brain. It's kind of like doing crosswords for, you know what I mean? You're kind of like doing them mind bending a little bit. You have to think a little bit, stretch out a muscle here or there, kind of figure it out. So with the cape being included, it appears as top is weaker light source, but that doesn't feel reflected in the hair. The left side of the cap. Okay. So The light should have been much dimmer than it currently is. It's almost as strong as the light on the hair, which I find the most out of place. So I'm kind of skimming through the rest of this because indeed the face looks like it's lit from the right directly, but overhead it looks like it's the top right. But when you have the strip of white, it doesn't really jive with either light source. Okay, would love to hear Wes's view on this. Heck, I would love to see him make a critique video on this as a study for lighting. Ta-da! Ask, and ye shall receive. So, let's talk about this. Let's kick over to the actual like painting right here that I have. I've done a few edits, I say edits. I've taken maybe 3 minutes to get a color and do some stuff just to kind of show what we're working with, how this is actually going to look with the lighting. Basically, if it was thrown across my desk and they're like, we need something done. We don't know what's wrong with it, but something's wrong with it. And we need someone to, which does happen. That type of stuff does happen. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to hop over to Photoshop and we're going to talk about some lessons about working in illustration and multimedia in the entertainment industry. So I've worked on commercials, I've worked on marketing art, I've worked on, illustrations, book covers, end papers, card games, board games, you name it. I've done quite a bit. And this has a certain smell to it. So let's talk about what that smell is and take a look at what we got going on over here. So we'll see you in a second. And we're back. So welcome back. We're here in Photoshop. We got our Superman Returns poster here, and we're going to take a look at this. So first off, what we're debating in the Discord, everybody is correct. And if you want to physically look at how the light works within this image, it doesn't really make sense. Like part of my brain would tingle and be like, something's not right. What's going on here? So there is a thing called a tangent. A tangent is whenever in an image, a shape, and I'm going to display some up here. While I'm talking. A tangent is when an image or pieces of an image align in such a way or overlap in such a way that it confuses the viewer on what they're actually looking at. Okay? So a perfect example, let me do one live right now. Let's just do 2000 by 2000, sure. Let's say, I'm making a picture and it's going to be a house with some trees. It's going to be a cool landscape. It's going to be a house with some trees. So I'm going to make my trees. I'm going to hold my shift button, kind of do this. Cool. Just holding shift, doing some things right here. Oh, but then we need, the field here, this type of stuff, let's say lights coming in through here. Oh, I need to make the building. Okay, I'm going to draw the building right between these two trees. So I am going to draw this building. Okay. Very basic. Okay, and actually there needs to be a circular bush in front of the building as well, right? So let's go ahead and let's make our circle bush right here, right next to the door, okay? And this is just your basic sketch and all this other stuff. And yeah, the light's coming in, and then we have this. And then let's say we have another set of bushes that are going to be right here and come around to maybe like right here, like right next to this other tree. So sure, these things can work separately, But do you see how if I were to come in and block all of these, and let's say these are all on the same plane. Let's say they're relatively in the midground. So I'm going to use my paintbrush and I'm going to do kind of a middle, a mid tone. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to block in my coloring on all of the things in the midground. So since all of these share the same, on the circle right there, and then this right here, let me get the roof right here. Roof right, oh, and then this tree, of course, has to be colored right here. Ta-da! You just lost all your readability on what you're even looking at. The lines saved you. The way you drew this saved you. Tangents happen because the house is directly the same. They're sharing the line. And the same thing for the bushes. And then the circle is sharing the edge right here, right in front of the... None of this makes sense because everything's kind of, flat and on top of each other. Black in the shadows does this exact thing. Black removes any sense of form you would ever have on a figure. Ever. There is one, maybe two careers, however, in the visual arts that rely on black shadows. And it's a comic book inker, right? You can't tell me Rob Della Torre does not know how to do shadows using black. That guy's a master. John Buscema, any of these people, these legendary ink artists, pencil artists, sketchers, Greg Tocchini, I think, they understand form and everything so well. They avoid tangents while using black because the way comic books are printed, it's cheaper to use black. If everything can be black shadows and then you can kind of do your colors and the midtones and the highlights, great. That you need to know how to use black in your shadows. So that is a requirement for that job, but you really got to know your stuff. Whenever you're doing a kind of a more classical painting or something like that, I would strongly urge you against using black in your shadows because you end up with tangents. You end up with areas where the viewer is like, wait, that doesn't look right, does it? A great example, there is an image of from GoldenEye 007 on the Nintendo 64. And the box art has James Bond holding his gun, his PPK, at the viewer. And the index finger, the line of the index finger is lined up to his mouth. I know I'm kind of small right now, so let me make myself bigger, and I'll actually show the image so you can see kind of the meme that it's made from. But he's holding the deal right, and the line between his finger and where the gun is, and his mouth is like that, and then so it looks like his mouth is like this long. It looks ridiculous, but that's a tangent. And that's what happens when you simplify the value so much to where all your shadows are one, they're black, essentially, right? They're all one value. You run into stuff like that. That's exactly what is happening, verbatim what is happening here with this Superman poster. The black is removing any sense of form here. So kind of where we're saying, okay, this red is here, and we see where the boot would wrap around. And yeah, the angle is weird, and you can kind of see the boot right here, but it doesn't look like it goes up high enough, because this one, if we did this, it would probably come up to here. But does his boot really cover his calf? You're losing all of it, right? And you can't see anything. You can't see anything. I'm gonna do a quick lesson. I actually do this lesson to talk about black shadows. Whenever I like, if I teach in person or if I'm on a Zoom call. Let's okay, do a little image of me right now. Okay, we got here. We're here. Okay, I'm gonna make one little adjustment. Okay, before you get started, I'm gonna make one little adjustment. Let me shut these lights off. All right, go ahead. There you go. What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, you can't see anything because everything's black. Exactly. You need light. You need light to be able to get form, to be able to show space, to be able to show ambience, to be able to show color. You need light on the thing. You need it. Stay away from black in the shadows. You know, it's great for contrast, but you got to be real responsible with it. So with that little shindig out of the way, let's talk about this. If this came across my desk and they're like, hey, we need you to do a quick thing, you have 10 minutes, and kind of send this in, what would you do? So what I did is I came in and using just a hard round brush, I grabbed just this basic kind of like cyan, blue, aqua color that's here in the background, and I brought in, actually I painted it like this. See, really messy, really gross, really kind of messy. But this shows you what my head is thinking. If we go from this to this, now you're getting more of the form. You're getting more, you know what I mean? You're getting more of the light. You're getting, it almost looks like a Alex Ross style of, you know, we're starting to emit that, which is a very key point. That's why his art looks so freaking good. He's a master of form. Very rarely does he use pure black in the shadows. He'll use a bounce color. He'll use that refracted and reflected light. I mean, he's a grandmaster at what he does. But that's how you start giving those vibes, is you fill it in with a color. You fill in the other side where the shadows would be. And then because this looks a little gaudy, you know, it's a very, very quick paint over, and you can come in and do the same thing. So if I wanted to come in and do the same thing on the, you know, on the cape, I could come in and right where all of this is kind of here, I would bring this in. I would kind of follow some of these curves. I would kind of follow some of the established look. I might even mix it with that red, because if it's still in the light, you know what I mean? I would come in and I would fill this in. Yeah, it looks kind of gumpy right now, but this should maybe start, your eye should maybe start seeing it. Does that make sense? Like, as you kind of fill in these gaps, you can start seeing, oh, that form looks like this, and I can stretch this and push this and blend that, and your eyes start noticing things, and it can start filling in the gaps. It's a little strong right now, but if you lower it to like 40%, there you go. It's way more subtle, right? It gives it a little bit more energy. It gives it a little bit more nuance. It's under total control. You're still in the shadow because of how dark everything is, but you're starting to get your shapes back. It still works because the silhouette reads well. Okay. And then we did the same thing. I brought that red up a little bit here. I brought in that bounce light to both, but I did keep a little bit of pure black. I did keep a little bit. I like this kind of like Terminator line, you know, because if you have a sphere, the Terminator line is where you get the least amount of light on the physical object, not counting ambient occlusion where no light hits it. There's still a little bit of light, but it's that Terminator. It's the darkest point of the core shadow of the element, right? Because then after that, you start getting bounce light or refracted light that comes back around and lights a bit of the shadow before your ambient occlusion, which is like areas that are tucked underneath, or like the bottom of the ball where the ball touches the floor, or, you know, that's where you get your zero visibility. No light's going to enter there. It's going to be your darkest value. But the Terminator is very close to the darkest value as well, a lot of times. So that's kind of what we have here. We have a Terminator line kind of going straight up his chest. It follows the curve. It still follows the form, gives you like the pectoral. Look, you get the abdomen right here because Superman really doesn't have six-pack abs. He just has the nice, like, slim look, like classic Superman at least. And then, you kind of bring it in with the leg right here. You kind of match the color, but you see how it's matching more of the light than the Superman blue. The nice thing about this one, though, using any sort of blue, like a cyan even, is going to work well because his suit is blue. So it works. I mean, it's a great design. So earlier, I said something kind of silly. I said that this smells like something. Let me get to the big... Oh, and one other thing before we leave this. You can change... Let's say you don't like the cyan color. You can actually come in and just change... Now that we painted this, we can change it to be a different color. We can have it be yellow. Doesn't look right. But we could say, hey, there's another light source 10,000 light years that way. And it's yellow. And it filled up the yellow on the shadow side. Isn't that cool? Or, you know what I mean? Like, there's a green. You can come in. You can do red, which is pretty striking, actually. And you can, like, up the saturation to give it this nice psychedelic look. But look at that. Isn't that cool? Like, you start getting these different energies whenever you do use your fill light, the light that's going to fill up the shadows. And you can really give it some personality. Even if we just matched it at the blue color, a lot of people would say that brings out the form more. I would think it does. You kind of mix it like that, and there you go. Now he's not really hit by any of the light, but he's lit up. Does that make sense? Like, the fill light is just catching him. But then, yeah, let's go over to the green. That's pretty crazy, but yeah, that reminds me of Alex Ross, actually, like super hardcore. But see, you have the red, you have oranges. You can do a lot with this. This is a really cool way that you can work on this. But with that being said, I said that this smelled like something, right? What this smells like, to me, is words that you usually hate to hear. And a lot of people, especially if they're not in the creative arts, they hear this and they back away. This smells like design by committee. Now, design by committee is a real thing. I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, absolutely without question, this right here was not made as one cohesive image. It wasn't. The photos that were taken of, I think this is Brandon Routh. If this is, I think this is Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh. Okay, I did check the name. So this is Brandon Routh. They did these on a standard, they just took pictures. They did photo shoots of him as Superman, give them to magazines, give this marketing art out there. Here's the cool dramatic poses, all of this stuff. And I bet it was shot like this. I bet they didn't have it pure black in the shadows. I think that was actually added later. Now, this is me. I'd never worked on Superman Returns. I don't know the first thing about it. I don't know the design crew or the internal crew that worked on this. I have no idea. So I'm spitballing based on my experience working on commercials and board games and yada yada, marketing art, book covers, everything. These things have to be passed around to like 30 people at least. They need to be signed off on. Is his suit the correct color? Look at the cape. Is the cape too boisterous? Is it too, that doesn't feel like Superman. People way above my pay grade are making those decisions, right? This is designed by committee. I also do not think that this is bad. I don't necessarily think design by committee is always bad. I think it removes some artistic integrity sometimes. But I've also learned, who cares? I know that's going to give me some heat, but you got to ship it. We got to move this thing out. Like, it'll be cheaper to make this poster because there's more black on it, so we can send this all around the world and get this put up quickly. And yeah, it's Superman. We can see it by the silhouette. It works. Now, if this was a handmade painting and they had $15,000 to give to the artist and they had 8.5 months to work on it, do you know what I mean? Like, no, that's not what this is. This is a design that needs to market. It needs to go out. It needs to do it. It needs to do the thing. It needs to see Superman, and then you have a light background and a dark foreground. And that's good. You can read what that looks like from 5 football fields away. And I know that's not a popular thing to say because, you know, as a painter, as an illustrator, artistic integrity is a big deal. And it really is. The arts are integrity, in my opinion. Like, they're the human condition. Like, we share these experiences as human beings. And also, something that can be true is ship it. We need this done. The deadline's in a week. We can't tweak the colors anymore. We've already printed 10,000 of them. Just keep it. So while it is a very good exercise to be able to look at this type of poster or this type of marketing art or this type of image, or the biggest thing I see, and coming from me, a newly acquired, I guess, Magic the Gathering artist, I see this all the time with magic art. Oh my God. It's not always up to the artist. I can tell you that from personal experience. It is not always up to the artist. You can have all the artistic intent in the world. You can have all the knowledge, all the wherewithal, all the acumen, and the buildup of like the trust level that your artistic expression can meet what the art director or the company or the whatever is working towards. But it has to be right. Not technically right, not anatomically correct, not correct for, well, the light here has to bounce this way and hit this fingernail, and because the fingernail's made of this type of calcium, it has to refract into... There's a great saying, the late, great Andrew Lesney. He was a cinematographer on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And, you know, Sean Astin and I think a few other people were in the scene. They were in a scene, it was an interior scene, and they were lit, and I think it was Sean Astin, you know, Samwise Gamgee, saying, hey, I don't know where this looks cool, but I don't know where the light is coming from. Like, this is a dark room and we're lit with a rim light. And so like bright yellow. And like, I don't know where the light's coming from. And Andrew Lesney was having a rough day. Apparently they were there for hours and hours and hours. He just looks out from behind the camera and he's like, the light is coming from the same place the music comes from. Yeah. You're making a product, man. You're selling an idea. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The rule of cool wins every time. As a working artist, I promise you, the rule of cool, if I work with a new client, here's a tip. This is a true art school tip. If I'm working with a client that I've never worked with before, and we have 3 moods of a painting, we have this thing, we need to make this thing, and it's a big castle or whatever. I'll do an artsy version, and I will do a badass version with angles and dynamics and the lights hitting and boom and bow, pow. That one wins every single time. Now, the secret is, how can you mix that dynamicism with the artsy fartsy stuff, the stuff that we as artists like to do? Look at these brush strokes. Look at the smudge. Oh, the smudge on the collar, and it makes a lost edge, and mwah. We care. We see the craftsmanship. Sometimes, you know, knock on wood, your art director does as well. You guys can meet, and those are the people you want to stick with for life. Because if you get it, if they get you and you get them, and your artistic intent lines up with what they need as far as, you know, putting out a product, oh, you just hit the jackpot, bud. Great work. However, There are some times, what if this image came fully rendered out? What if it came fully rendered out? What if the image, whenever they made it, had the proper bounce lights, they put it in like 3D Studio Max or Blender or whatever, and like it was lit correctly. Like they lit it and it had the ambient occlusion and occlusion shadows and the screen space reflections and all this other stuff, and then bam. And then the committee got it and they're like, nah, just make that half black. All right. You know, I mean, that's the business. As an illustrator, as a painter, if you're wanting to get into entertainment, if you're wanting to get in to card games and work with art directors and D&D and all this other stuff, you are not making your art. You are making their art. And you have to be okay with that. The moment I release my stuff to my client, they can do whatever they want with it. Whatever they want. I don't care. You paid me for a service. I have done that service to the best of my abilities based on feedback and my artistic expression and my kind of wherewithal and like knowledge and experience of working. And I delivered it. Money exchanged hands. We signed the contract. Handshake. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let's do it again soon. I hope to work with you again. It's been a real treat. The end. They can flip it upside down, invert the colors, pull this and do that and do this, and that's their prerogative. It is what it is. So absolutely for the Superman poster, I'm not knocking anybody because it probably wasn't designed like that in the first place. You know what I mean? And once you get in the headspace of I'm going to do this painting, I'm going to do this art, I'm going to do this stuff, and they can change it at will, it's almost freeing because they're going to get what they need. I just do the best of my ability to make that as close as possible to the end goal without them having to do anything else. That's my job. Whatever the other people want to do, that's on them. Not my circus, not my monkeys, as it is said. But yeah, this smells like designed by committee. You're taking a picture of a planet and a render of this with light bloom from that, and you put the PNG file of Superman that you got from the 5,000 photos that you took on the one day of Brandon Routh in costume, and you kind of just make it kind of work. Okay, cool. It looks good enough. Okay, ship it. Remember, done is better than perfect. That's a big one. Done is better than perfect. But hey, that's my time, guys. I know I went off on a big tangent on there, and this kind of got away from using black in the shadows to more of an overall like illustrating other people's art type thing. But just know, yes, you can add more bounce light. I highly recommend shying away and not using pure black in your shadows for this exact reason. Something kind of looks off. If you have people that are really interested in kind of the art and the artistic intent of this stuff, they're going to be the first ones to notice that if something looks a little off or not necessarily wrong, but like, nah, something doesn't add up. Something's kind of weird. If you avoid black in the shadows, you're well on your way to not having to deal with that as much. Okay. However, should you never use black? No, go for it. Like I said, if you want to be a comic book inker or penciler, by God, you better become a grand master at using black shadows, because you're going to have to describe form with very little brushwork, with very little penmanship, dexterity. You got to make it look legit with very few moves. And that's a whole different ballgame. It's a thing I wish I knew. I'm terrible at it. I'm trying to embrace more of my sketchy ink, watercolor side, because it'll break me out of some habits that I kind of hide behind. But you better be able to use black well. But if you don't know either how to or why you are doing it, I would say shy away from it. Okay. So yeah, this one was all over the place a little bit, but yeah, class is now out of session. That was today's lecture, as it were. But if you like it, give me a like in the comments. Let me know in the comments, do you like this format of video where we just kind of look at stuff, talk shop, talk these big ideas, kind of generalize them down into maybe bigger topics that can overarch different media styles, you know, painting or graphic design or all that stuff. I'd love to know. If you want to see more of these, let me know that as well. But like I said earlier, we would love to have you in the Discord. It's absolutely free. Links will be in the description below. And yeah, next video, I think we're going to have some news that I'm pretty stoked about, to be honest with you. And you know, we'll see what the future holds. I'll put it that way. But yeah, hope you had fun. Hope you learned a little something. Go experiment. Go experiment. Get this image from the Discord server or Google search the Superman Returns poster and play around with it. Figure it out. See where you would put light. What color would the light be? How can you do this? Taking something established, breaking it apart, kind of looking at it, reverse engineering it, as it were, is a great way to learn, to build up your own confidence, find your own style. It's just a great way to go through and through. But that is my time. This has been Wes's Art Tips. You all have been awesome, and we will catch you guys next time. Peace.